90% of the successful data breaches were initiated by some form of human hacking or social engineering, targeted for a number of reasons, right? But one of the big reasons why we are targeted and not our neighbor is that what is the amount of information that's out there about us? All these years of speaking about social engineering, a lot of people don't really understand what it is. So I like to use the term human hacking because it's more visual. How we're able to approach and manipulate individuals, humans, to be able to circumvent technological controls, policies, and procedures in organizations to be able to get at the information.
Hello viewers, today we have Peter Warmka with us. He's a renowned keynote speaker, author, and a cybersecurity consultant with a fascinating background. As a former senior intelligence officer with the CIA, Peter has over 20 years of experience in breaching the security of target organizations overseas. His expertise in human hacking and social engineering has made him a leading figure in the field. He is the founder of the Counterintelligence Institute, where he focuses on empowering organizations to protect their sensitive information and prevent insider threats. Peter is also the author of the best-selling book, Confessions of a CIA Spy, The Art of Human Hacking, and his latest release, Why Are You Messing With Me?, a senior survival guide on fraud, privacy, and security, has been making waves. Recognized as a top 40 thought leader of 2024 by the Life Safety Alliance, Peter is here to share his unique insights and experiences with us. I'm extremely thrilled to have him with us today, so let's start.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so my first question to you is, you've been termed a professional human hacker. Can you explain what human hacking entails and share memorable experience from your CIA days?
Oh, absolutely. I like to use the term human hack. I mean, it's very similar. It's the same thing as social engineering. However, a lot of people don't really understand, after all these years of speaking about social engineering, a lot of people don't really understand what it is. So I like to use the term human hacking because it's more visual, how we're able to approach and manipulate individuals, humans, to be able to circumvent technological controls, policies, and procedures in organizations to be able to get at the information that we seek as intelligence officers, or if we're a threat actor in a criminal group trying to breach the organization and get the data. So it's really, the human element is crucial in this, and so it's hacking into the mind of the human to be able to assess them and to be able to, based on what we learn about their motivations and vulnerabilities, to be able to manipulate them to satisfy the objective of the human hacker.
Okay, so how did the skills and experiences you gained as a senior intelligence officer at the CIA help you in your role as a cybersecurity advocate and consultant now?
Well, it's an interesting question because when you think about cyber, you think about people that have a technological background. I do not have a technological background, but a big component of cybersecurity. I like to, rather, instead of using cyber, which is sort of this, this thing that's out there, people think in the cloud, or a lot of people don't understand cyber. I like to use the term data protection, information protection, which can come in lots of forms, not just protecting the network, but protecting information that's on other parts of the organization that people have access to. So when I talk about cyber, I mean, we use that term, but it's pretty much data protection. And the component for me, what I learned while I was in the CIA, and I focused on for over 20 years of working overseas, was that human component, and we have to, people, I think more and more today are starting to focus on the human element of cybersecurity and how we need to address that, whether it's public awareness, training, etc. So I have my whole entire career was focused on interacting with humans to be able to accomplish my mission. So for me, it was relatively an easy transition for me in understanding where this comes in, how important this is, and it's really when, after I retired about in 2010 and started to do some other work, and I began to hear so much about all of these breaches that were happening worldwide, across many countries, not only in the United States, and so many different types of companies, right? Not only these really large companies, but small and medium-sized companies, organizations, municipal governments, state entities. That over 95% of the successful data breaches were initiated by some form of human hacking or social engineering. So I said, wow, I've been, doing this, I'm professional in this particular area for over 20 years. And so I wanted to use this expertise in helping organizations to understand what are the threats, who are the threat actors, because there's a variety of them, what are their objectives, and that common element, if we're talking about human hacking, they're focused on manipulating individuals to be able to accomplish the breach of the organizations that they're trying to get access to.
Right. And you've been doing that pretty well now.
I've been doing that for a long time, and I enjoy it. I have a passion. If you can't tell by now, I have a passion for this topic, because it's and I think this whole art, human manipulation is not. You don't need to take it necessarily in a negative vein. When we talk about understanding individuals, what makes them tick, their motivations, vulnerabilities, and using social engineering skills, that can be used by a manager of people, right? Understanding your people, how to motivate them, how to help them accomplish their goals, how to make a better team, a management team. If you're a salesperson, how do you size up a person, assess them, and be able to, sort of manipulate them or convince them that this product is going to be the best thing for them. So, there's a lot of different applications for social engineering, human hacking. Mine specifically, though, my focus is how it's utilized from a security standpoint.
In your book, Confessions of a CIA Spy, The Art of Human Hacking, you delve into deception and manipulation. Can you share a particularly captivating story from the book that highlights these themes?
Okay, one of their requirements during my career was to actually there was an office business location that was of interest to the CIA, and they wanted to send in a team to be able to gain access, infiltrate the physically into the installations of the building in the evening. And so they wanted to collect as much information about the layout of physical spaces of this company. So they asked me if I could gain access, under some sort of pretense, to collect information on the layout, and that could be utilized for a team later on to be able to get in there and install particular technical equipment, listening devices, etc. So what I did is, as an example, right, of how social engineers can create stories and approach people and use those stories to be able to get them to help you unwittingly. I set up this was I can't remember exactly how many floors it had. Well, let's say the building had about 12 floors.
Okay.
And I set up a meeting with the manager of the building manager, and because I knew they had 2 different floors that were available at that time for rental. And so I told them I represented a company. We were looking at office space. Could you show me, these office spaces, and I can learn about whether or not maybe it might be suitable for our purposes. So yeah, they gladly, a sales manager gladly wants to, sell the product, right? So we set up a time, and normally you would need, special access, identification and everything to get into the building. But since I already had this appointment set up, they pretty much just let me in. The sales agent, met me down below in the reception, and took me up, and then it showed me 2 different office spaces. Okay, and when it was time to leave, I said I needed to use the restroom. Can I just use the restroom, and then I will, and I needed to make a call, and I would just leave on my own. Sure. So when I parted ways with her, I was still in the building, and I decided to go into the target office space.
Okay.
What I said to them, it was a person that worked in the office space. It was not a manager or anything, just a worker there. And I said, listen, I've just viewed offices on floor 5 and floor 7, whatever the case may be, and very impressed with this building. And actually, the office manager told me that your office is actually a great example of how well designed and decorated the office space can become. And so you mind? I really would appreciate, could I have a chance to see what you've done with these spaces, because the size of the offices are exactly the same. And sure, it's kind of like they receive that compliment, right? It's flat,
Yeah.
kind of like flattery. There's a lot of different sort of techniques, but this is kind of like flattery. Oh yeah,
Flattery.
I would. Our building was recommended. Our floor was recommended. So invited me in. I was walking around. I said, wow, this is really. Do you mind if I take a few pictures?
Yeah.
Not at all. So they even offered take pictures of me, with things in the background, and I took a lot of pictures and walked around and asked a lot of questions about security in the building and access after hours and all these different things. And I was probably in there for maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and then I parted ways. Very gracious, thankful, and I found is just like being very cordial, being very likable, having a reason, and using the term like help. Can you help me? Goes a long way.
Yeah, it does.
People to really help you. So, and I walked away, and then I went back to my office, and then I just started to use the combination of the pictures and sketches, and I sent in the information to them, which was used later on to actually infiltrate the offices and do what they needed to do. So that's just a basic example of creating the pretext and being able to create that story, and be able to use it to pretty much get at anything we wanted to.
So how can ordinary people recognize and protect themselves from social engineering attacks in their daily lives?
Okay, the way I break this down is that when we can be targeted for a number of reasons, right? But one of the big reasons why we are targeted and not our neighbor is that what is the amount of information that's out there about us, right?
Okay.
The more information that a human hacker has, the more likely they're going to choose this person over that person. So we want to kind of control the amount of information we put out there about ourselves, but even that, there's so much information that's already out there in social media. And think about probably almost every, at least here in the United States, almost every single employee of a company has had their PII, their personal identifier information, breached, compromised, at least once, if not 3, 4, 5 times. So the information is out there. I think we need to understand that for really, at this point in time, to protect ourselves, we have to have this awareness and understand that we're not going to fall victim to human hacking when we are going and contacting people for information. The danger is when someone approaches us who we don't know and could have targeted us, could have collected information on us and created this pretext for why they're contacting us and what do they want. So it's kind of like, is there an ask? Are they asking us to comply with something or to do something, to provide, are they asking us for information that could be sensitive information, that could be sought out by, a human hacker that's going to use that for, a particular attack? Are they asking us to send money? Are they does it seem like this is a request that's coming from a boss or somebody else that would be asking, and, if this is fraudulent, could this have dire consequences? So these different types of approaches could come in by email, they can come in by text message, they could come in by a social media. Someone contacts you on social media that you don't really know them, but you decide to connect with them. They start a conversation with you. Then, they think of phishing as being something coming through email, but a phishing attack can easily, spear phishing attack can easily come in through a social media, like LinkedIn platform, for example. Where all these social media platforms have DM components, they have messaging features, right? So in that messaging, you can also incorporate a malicious link or malicious attachment. It's just another channel of communication. Or, is it an incoming telephone call? We call phishing, someone pretending to be, whoever they want to be, using caller. I don't know if you have this where you are, but here in the United States, it's very common. We have caller spoofing the caller ID number, where we can make it look like it's coming from your financial advisor, your boss, your partner, and then now adding to that the AI component of this and adding other tools like voice cloning. I mean, it makes it much more powerful. These types of social engineering tools, or someone approaching you face to face. I did a lot of that during my career, approaching individuals face to face and getting to establishing a relationship with them and using a pretext. And but these are the things, people that are approaching you, they can say whatever they want to say, and we have to really be thinking about verifying about, verifying what's being conveyed to us before trusting it. That's, there's a slogan out there, trust then verify. But in today's digital world, if you have trust then verify, it's too late. We need to verify.
Verify first and then trust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That was a very powerful message. With your vast experience, what are some proactive measures organizations can implement to prevent employees from becoming insider threats?
Okay, there's a lot. That's a loaded question. There's a lot of different things. I think the most important area, though, is going to be creating that awareness, right? Security awareness within the organization, and it has to be a message that is incorporated throughout all levels of the organization. It can't be just the workers. It has to be also the workers got to see that if they're supposed to comply with particular procedures, that is also the upper management from the C-suite. They're also complying with it, because if they're not, then it's just like, I think that the training needs to be, this whole area of training when it comes to cybersecurity, it's kind of presented as compliance training, right? You must take this training and pass this training in order to remain employed. I'll get my 75%. I'll pass, and I'll send it to my manager. Hey, I got my certificate. The manager will forward up to their management. We are 100% in compliance. But what have the employees learned? First of all, if you were to ask your employee, what's more important to you, safeguarding the information of your employer or safeguarding your personal information that will protect you and your family from fraud and from identity theft? They're going to say their own, right? Their first interest is going to be protecting themselves and their family. So why don't organizations, I'm a strong advocate for this, organizations should kind of like reformulate how this training is presented to their employees. Instead of being compliance training, it's like, you do this or you're going to be fired. It should be seen as a benefit. The company should be offering various benefits to their employees, and this type of training, this awareness, is a benefit to the employee to protect themselves and their family. And because the methodology is very much the same, the psychology is very much the same, and if they begin to understand, they have this awareness to protect themselves, this is going to carry forward in the workplace as well. So I think this is a major change that we need to see, and I strongly advocate this within companies.
So you've traveled to over 56 countries and have a love for archaeology and adventure. Can you share an adventure or discovery that left a lasting impact on you?
Oh wow, there's several, but one of them probably that's the kind of most unique is that traveled with my wife a number of years. This is before COVID. We traveled to Vietnam, and when we were in Vietnam, we were taking, we were part of a tour group. We were going around, and we were in Hanoi at one point, and we wanted to go to Ho Chi Minh's tomb. There's a park. He's a very important historical leader for North Vietnam at that particular, war. So we wanted to see his tomb. And when the tour company went by there, they said, "Oh, it's closed today. We can't go in." And so it wasn't part of the tour, and we were kind of disappointed. So we decided to, instead of going with the tour group the following day for an optional tour of, I can't remember where, we said, let's go back because the tomb is open today. And so we left our hotel, and we knew what time they were going to open, and we held down a taxi. And I can't speak Vietnamese. A lot of taxi drivers don't speak English, so I was kind of like showing them on the map. This is where I want to go, and they was like, no. Here, I stopped 3 different taxi drivers, and all of them were like, no.
Hi.
So I was getting frustrated with my wife. I said, man, we're gonna walk there. It's not that far. Let's just walk. We started walking, and then we got to a major boulevard, and we couldn't get across it. It was like all kinds of security. And we had to cross this boulevard to be able to get a few more blocks to where we wanted to go. And what we found out is that all the security was in place because President Kim from North Korea had been visiting, doing a state visit, and he was going to go to the tomb as well for a visit. And so everything was just blocked off. And we were in, we were talking to the police, and that's pretty much what we got. We found out this is the reason for it. And then we were asking the police, is there another area where we can, so they kind of like, go down further, a few more blocks, and be able to get across there. We did that. We couldn't get through. And then what we saw, within maybe half a block of us, was this older couple, really well dressed. I mean, they were really well dressed older couple. They were looking at us, and I think they saw the expressions in our face that we were really frustrated, and they were like waving, come. And so we went to them, and I kind of like showing them. They didn't speak any English, and I didn't speak any Chinese. But I probably, in hindsight, I did speak some French, and I didn't think about using that. Probably could have used French, but nonetheless, it was just English. And we were kind of showing them, and then they said, come. And they were like, just following. And we were walking, and we were walking maybe for a good half an hour, and they were taking us through all these cut-throughs, through parks and everything. And we circumvented, these security barriers just by following them. And then we got to the location, and there was like a line. There was a line again, like a mile long, and we were thinking, we're not going to make it. And we kind of stopped at my wife and I were stopping at the end of the line, and then this couple was looking at us like, come on, and he grabbed my arm, and she grabbed my wife's arm and started to kind of like pull us through the around and through the line to where we got to the very front of, literally like within the third or fourth person after the front of the line. It was still not open yet to the public, but within maybe 20 minutes it opened, and then it was a line for men and there was a line for women, and so he pulled me through and she pulled my wife through. We went through security, and then we went into the tomb, and they were with us all the way, and I could see kind of like the pride on their face. This was their leader. This was like somebody that they idolized, right? And for them to be able to take a foreigner, take an American or whatever through there was like a great honor for them. And then so we went through, and then even at the end of it, there was still some other things to see. They took us through all of the, they probably spent 2.5 hours with us, and we couldn't speak a word. We couldn't communicate at all in English or Vietnamese. It was just through the nodding, and it was like a very warm experience. It was probably one of the most warm experiences that I ever had. And then there was a place that you could take pictures, and so they said that, I wanted to kind of take a picture, and we took a picture together. They insisted on paying, and we got a copy for them and a copy for us. And then we parted ways, but it was just such a beautiful,
it's a sweet memory for you, even today.
Yeah, it was such to me, that's like, think about highlights. It's just like, we never would have got in there without them. They saw us, they wanted to help us. They took pride in being able to share their culture with us, and to me that was the highlight of the entire trip. It was a fantastic trip. But when people ask us, well, how was Vietnam? I always share that story because to me that was very human, right? Human element.
Human.
Yeah, we're all we're all the same, really. We have a heart. We have red blood. We maybe have different languages to speak, but we have one common language, right? But express different ways.
That was one sweet story. Okay, so let's play a quick scenario game. If I were a potential insider threat, how would you go about identifying and mitigating the risk that I pose?
I can't see you as an insider threat, but regardless, since you asked the question, I think if there was possibility of you being an insider threat, I would want to get as much information about you, assessment information as possible. And I talked about previously, we would, in the old days, we would get together with somebody, sit down with them for coffee, lunch, kind of like learn about them. I wouldn't start with that today at all. What human hackers do many times to learn about individuals that we might be interested in, manipulating, is get assessment of them through their social media. And I would go on your social media and collect information. There's so many different sites, and it depends on where in the world you are, what sites might be, platforms are the most useful. But here in if we're in the United States, I would look at your LinkedIn. I would learn about what your career aspirations are through your LinkedIn page. Professionally, where you've gone to school, where you've worked before. You're on LinkedIn, for example. It also has your volunteer work. What passions do you have outside the workplace? Go into Facebook, learn a lot about your hobbies, interests. Learn a lot about you on Facebook. Go into Twitter, X, and get into your mind. Learn about what's your ideology, your religious convictions, your passions, your political leanings. And also, what upsets you? What are your pet peeves? Things that really upset you? Go onto Instagram, and I can see people post their pictures on Instagram. They're at restaurants. As soon as the food comes, they say, "Wait! I gotta take a picture of this before they eat it." And they post it onto Instagram, or they're at the gym. They're posting pictures of them in the gym, or they're happy hour with their friends. I got to learn their pattern of life, kind of like what's their routine. I think through analyzing their social media platforms, what they have on their presence on social media, I can learn a lot about
Who I am as a
them.
person.
Yeah, their motivations and their vulnerabilities, and so based on that, then they decide, well, are they happy in their profession? Are they happy in the workplace, or maybe are they a bit disgruntled? Because this is where a lot of times people can be manipulated if they have financial difficulties, or if they're very disgruntled with their employer. There are many people that resent their employer, resent their supervisor, and if given an opportunity to get back at them, revenge is huge. Ego is huge. People have strong egos and believe they're smarter than anybody else. It's so easy to manipulate them to say, "I bet this could never be done," or "You wouldn't be able to do this, right?" Oh, you're hitting those triggers, and it's amazing. It's amazing.
And it's pretty scary too.
Well, yeah, but I mean, when I speak to people, it's not like a motivational speech that feel all great. It's kind of like I'm a disruptor. I want people to change, and so it's kind of I don't want people to be super paranoid, but I want them to have a healthy paranoia so that they begin to analyze, use critical thinking. This is my goal, to invoke these people to think about these different risks, be on guard a bit.
Right. Okay, so can you tell us about any upcoming projects or books that you're working on?
Well, I like to write, but sometimes it takes a while to get going. I've been working on something for a little while, but it's my previous books are more like, books that are just how would we call this? Like nonfiction books, right? That are, but now I'm in the process of writing a fiction, but it's based on reality, and it's it's called like what we call a parable, right? Where you're using a fiction story, but you're really conveying information, a message. And so this book that I'm putting together now talks about an individual who is working for the Russians. I don't know if you or your audience knows much about it, but it's called the illegal program, where they'll send individuals overseas instead of being, as a Russian diplomat or Russian business person. They will have that person infiltrate that country let's say it's in the United States. They will have somebody eventually infiltrate the United States as an American. They obtain American documentation. They will take on the identity of an American maybe that died early in birth, and so they get that certificate and everything. Long story short, they infiltrate that new country as the citizen of that country, trying to gain access to people that have information of interest. And so this is an active program. It's been going on for years, actually. There's an excellent book if you are interested in reading a book. It's called Active Measures. Okay. And so this is something that will incorporate some of what the Russians are doing with using individuals like this. So the book is about an individual that's being sent by the Russians, and how that individual gets into the United States, and all the psychology behind it, the problems, the loneliness of being, no one knows who they are except them, and they're out there to try to accomplish this particular mission. So that's kind of like what I have in the works, but it's not yet releasable, but hopefully within the next year or so.
So what do you hope to be remembered for in the field of cybersecurity and intelligence?
Whoa, that's a loaded question. There's a legacy, right? And I hope, that I'm making a small contribution, but it's there's not that many people out there that focus on human hacking or social engineering. There's really only, a dozen or a couple dozen individuals that are out there that have, written books that are speaking about this. And I don't think there's anybody else like me specifically that comes with the background of having worked in intelligence, of being able to show that comparison, right, of how utilizing these type of skills in the intelligence world as an intelligence officer, and then being able to pivot and be able to with an understanding of these skills, help you to protect organizations. So I hope in my small way that I'm able to do that, and that I hope that it begins to create an impetus where this awareness becomes to grow, and I hope there's more and more people that begin to talk about social engineering, human hacking. So I'm hoping I'm seen as a pioneer, perhaps, in this effort to create this awareness.
So, do you have any favorite spy movies or TV shows that you feel depict the life of an intelligence officer accurately or humorously inaccurately?
Oh boy, almost everyone is humorously inaccurately. I mean, there's so many of them that it kind of irritates me. I go to the movies with my wife, and we're watching something that has to do with intelligence. I start getting frustrated. I said, "That's not true. That would never happen." She said, "Just enjoy the movie." I can't though. Well, but probably one of the best movies that I think really, really accurately depicts the life as an intelligence officer, the world of intelligence, is Argo, ARGO. That is it was written by actually one of the individuals who was the intelligence officer and his wife that were involved with this mission. It was shortly after the takeover of the U.S. embassy in Tehran by radical elements within Iran, and there was a number of Americans that were still, they were trying to get out of Iran. They were not in the embassy, but they were trying to get out of Iran, and so the CIA sent in a team to actually, and the cover for this team was actually to make a movie documentary. So they're going in as a movie company and being able to collect the information on the ground and prepare these individuals, and they're using disguises and develop cover stories and created documents to be able to get these individuals out of Iran and into safety. And so that movie, it really, it's a true story. Well, it's not it's almost like a documentary, but it's a movie. And so you have the book Argo, and then you have the movie Argo. So I highly recommend that particular movie.
Okay. So is that your favorite book?
My favorite book is one that I recommend to so many people, and I think I referred to it a little bit earlier. It's called Active Measures. It's written by Thomas Rid, and it focuses on the history of how the Russians, have set up within. And I think I can't remember the name of the department. It could be Department D, but it's a huge department that's used for disinformation. And this started back in the late 20s, early 30s, and up to this present day, where the Russians are very active in disinformation campaigns. I follow a lot of this. And this book, for anybody that's interested in that whole psychology and how it works, this book is fantastic.
Okay, so this brings us to the last section of our interview, which is the rapid fire round. So I'll be shooting some quick off-the-cuff questions, and you need to reply ASAP. Are you ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
A place you haven't traveled to but want to visit.
Jordan.
A hobby you're passionate about besides archaeology.
Artificial intelligence, actually, and this is something relatively recent, but I'm just passionate about the topic.
Okay, it's favorite movie.
Favorite movie is you asked me that earlier. Argo. Well, Argo. I mentioned it's the book and also the movie Argo.
Okay, favorite beach.
Favorite beach. Clearwater Beach in near Orlando, Florida. I live in Orlando.
Okay, favorite view.
Favorite view? Oh, from in Rio de Janeiro, from the statue. People refer to it as the Christ statue, Christ the Redeemer. It's the best view of the whole bay around Rio de Janeiro. It's just beautiful.
Right. Thank you so much for sharing all that, Peter. I had a fun time talking to you. Thank you so much for joining us. I had a lovely time talking to you, and I'm sure my audience would have definitely learned a thing or two from your interview.
Well, thank you very much, and I hope I have an opportunity to travel to where you are someday, and maybe personally meet. If I can, if you want to do another round of interviews or questions, please feel free. I'm always happy.